to keep it. So I just, I cut it up into that shape, and I put it as part of the gown that she's wearing. And then this right here was just, like picnic tablecloth. And I put it on the Xerox machine. And one of the fun aspects of collage is to take imagery and either enlarge it or reduce it, or print things on top of each other. And so, a lot of this is what that is. My mother was throwing away Easter decorations, and I thought, well, instead of throwing that away, maybe I'll take it home and make a black and white Xerox of it and paint on it. Because some of these images that I use, I'm painting right over the top of the image. And so once I decide on certain images, the challenge is to get it in the form or the shape that I need it to be. So if I need this in here in this shape, I have to put a piece of tracing paper up here and trace that shape, and then take the wrapping paper and put it behind the trace, and then cut it out very carefully, and then glue it into that space, and take a roller, like if you're putting up wallpaper, take a roller and just keep rolling it until it lays straight. You've probably noticed on some of these that not all of them have collage that lays perfectly flat. And that's okay. I don't mind if I get a little, kind of buckle or bubbling here where the glue didn't want to lay flat. So, but I like to collect a lot of textures too. I'll take like a section of window screening, and then I'll just put it on a Xerox machine and blow it up by 200% or something. And then cut it out and put it in a spot like this. I don't know if anybody recognizes some of the characters here. This is Betty Page. She was a pinup queen in the 1950s, kind of disappeared from culture in the 60s. And then we have, of course, Betty Boop, and we have Wolverine and Robbie the Robot from Forbidden Planet. I think part of being somebody that creates art is also being interested in other aspects of like visual art. So a lot of my research has to do with watching movies a lot. So I have friends that accuse me of being a couch potato, but I do spend a lot of time looking at old classic movies, and for me, that's part of my research, is watching old movies and just finding, building a visual vocabulary from these old movies and saying, I can take this from this scene, or I can take this image, or, there's certain things that I can borrow from old movies. In fact, I feel like a lot of our entertainment today is not very good. I prefer old stuff. We could talk about Alfred Hitchcock, or we could talk about a really bad filmmaker like Ed Wood. I think it's important to watch terrible movies as much as it is in watching well-made movies like Citizen Kane by Orson Welles. But I'm inspired by lowbrow culture and highbrow culture. And so that's another concern I have, is to kind of, how do I merge highbrow culture with lowbrow culture? And I think that in a lot of pieces that I do, I try to do that, is take poor taste and combine it with good taste. Because John Waters is often said, I don't know how many of you are familiar with John Waters. He directed Pink Flamingos and Hairspray and Female Trouble, and he believes that in order to...
You and I are familiar with Rubens' painting, but maybe you guys, those of you who've ever seen the musical Seven Brides or Seven Brothers. Yeah, it's based on the Rape of the Sabine.
What? Yeah, you'll see the reference of the composition, how he composes his painting, and that's part of making great art too, is just understanding how things are composed. If you have good design skills, and I'll tear up the packaging of the blueberry pie and stick it in here.
Because when I